Hi everybody, and welcome to my intro to animation in the Wick editor. I'm re-recording this tutorial because of some technical difficulties last time, so hopefully this time goes better than that because I'm just doing this meeting for myself. I don't have to worry about internet connections or lag or anything. So let's get started. So first off, what is the Wick editor? Well, it's a completely online animation editor. So that means it is a program to do animation in, but without having to download or install anything. As long as you have an up-to-date internet browser and an internet connection, you can use the Wick editor. It's free and open source, and that means that it is being continuously worked on by an open community. That means anyone who wants to can contribute code to it to improve it and make it better, which is why it's free, because no one really owns the license to it or anything. It was first created in 2016 by these two guys, Zach Rispoli and Luca Damasco. But since then has been iterated upon by the previously mentioned open community. And you can find it at this website here, wickeditor.com. I have the link here, but also you can probably Google Wick and it'll be the first one that shows up. And I actually already have it in this tab here. And when you get there, you want to hit Launch Web Editor. So it'll load, and it'll give you this little window. You just want to hit Try It. Since I've worked here before, I have an autosave, but I don't need that right now. But yeah, this is what it looks like. If you're familiar with other animation software like Flash, it's pretty similar to that. In fact, it was modeled on pretty popular ones like Flash, Photoshop, Krita, mostly Flash. So if you're like me and you grew up using Flash in the school computer labs in middle school and high school, this will look very familiar to you. But if it does, and even if it doesn't, I'm gonna give you a little tutorial to the editor. So I've got you, don't worry. I'm gonna show you where everything is, even if you've never animated anything before. So over here are the editor settings, and this is where you can change the editor itself so that it can fit your own preferences. So you can change the name of your project, you can change the width and height if you're going for a specific dimension of your animation. The background color, frame rate is how smooth your animation is. I'll talk a little more about frames later, but keep that in mind. And then presets are, these preset templates of what you would want your animation to look like. And no matter what you change, you want to make sure to hit apply because otherwise it won't save. These shortcuts are, different hotkeys that you can use so that you don't have to go clicking through menus or anything to find your tools. They're pretty straightforward and standard among drawing and animation programs, like, brush is B, pencil would be P, to copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, pretty standard, but in case you get lost, you can find them here. You can also change them to be something that is more comfortable for you. And again, just make sure you hit apply when you're done. And then the editor, all that you really can change in here is your style of onion skinning. And similar to frame rate, I will be talking more about onion skinning in a little bit, so just keep that in mind. But if you want to change it, you would change it here. So this here is your canvas. It's your drawing area, your screen. It's basically what you will see while you're working on your animation and when the animation is done. Up here is your save button. Once you've got some work done, you want to make sure to hit save. And the way that the Wick editor handles saved projects is it will download something to your computer, so the save file. And then if you want to open it again, you come back to this website, the Wick editor, you hit open, and it will give you just a file select screen, and you can re-upload your project and keep working on it. Export is for when you're done and you want to export it to some kind of file that you can either upload to YouTube or your website to watch like a regular video. So that would be video here. You could also make an animated GIF or GIF, however you pronounce it. And what I like about this export menu is it tells you exactly what you're getting out of each file type. So, oh, a video has this MP4 file, which is great. It works in most video sharing places. And it does have sound, but it's not interactive. You can't play a game in a video. Whereas a GIF, there's no sound, it's not interactive, but you do get an animated image. Some newer things that have been added in newer iterations of the Wick editor include like an HTML game that you could play. So similarly to how you can make games in Flash, I'm sure a lot of us spent our childhoods playing Flash games online. You can make similar games in here, and it gives you an HTML file that you can upload to a site like itch.io or something like a game hosting site like that. There's also a zip archive, which would give you basically all the files that you generate using this Wick editor. They would just zip them all up nicely for you. You could also do audio if you want, but I think if you're doing an animation, this is probably not what you're looking for, but it's there if you need it. And then images, if you wanted to get still images of your animation for storyboards or, you know, a preview thumbnail or something, you can get those here in image sequencer, an SVG. So yeah, that's what the export menu is like. Up here, it's your title, which you can change again in settings. Here are all of your different drawing and creating tools. And again, they're pretty standard to different drawing and animation programs. Like you have your cursor, brush, pencil, eraser. You can make rectangles and ellipses, straight lines. Your path cursor is cool because if you make a line and then select it with the path cursor, you can make it a curved line, which is pretty cool and makes drawing a lot easier if you're just dealing with a mouse and not a fancy drawing tablet. And then text tools you have here, fill bucket, and then eyedropper to pick the color. These are your color selection tools up here for the fill and the stroke. That's the inside and the outside of a shape. And over here we have your canvas actions. So these are similar to what you can find on a Word document or a presentation, where if you wanted to move an object that you drew forward or behind the other objects, that would be here. Flip horizontal and vertical. And then these are for if you want to combine different things you drew into one object. You could unite them, or you could separate them. Subtract means you use one to erase the other, and intersect means that they make like a negative of each other. And then here you have a delete button, copy and paste if you don't use the keyboard shortcuts, undo, redo. Again, pretty standard. And then what I want to show next is the inspector, which is up here. So it's blank for now, but if you select something like this curved line that I just did, you can see all of the different numerical stats in the inspector of the object. And you can edit them in here. So if I wanted to, say, make it wider than it is right now. Right now it's 84 point something something. Well, let's just make it an even 100 and see how it grew. And then there's these two buttons are for if you do want to make something like a game, but we're dealing with an intro to animation right now, so you can just learn those later, maybe in a different video. And then down here is your asset library, and that is where you upload different things to put into the editor to use. So if I wanted to add sounds or something, I could either upload them from my own computer, or there are some built-in assets to the Wick editor that you can use in any of your projects. And I'm going to do that in a little bit, but for now, let's move on. Down here, you have your onion skinning, like I mentioned earlier. And what that does is it allows you to see frames ahead and behind of the one that you currently are on. So what are frames? Well, a frame is like a basic unit of animation or a basic step in your animation. So if if I had my fingers walking, like one frame would be this, and then the next one would be this, and then the next one would be this, and then the next one would be this. Those would be all of our frames. And down here we have pan, so this is to move the canvas around, zoom in, zoom out, and recenter. Recenter is important because if you're not centered, your animation is going to be a little off, and it's going to look like it's skipping a little bit. I speak from experience with this. So down here, we have our layers, which are pretty similar to, again, other drawing and animation programs. They're very useful because you can edit something on one layer without disturbing things on the other layer. So if I wanted to draw something above or below this line and not worry about the line, I could add another layer. If I wanted to add sound, I could add another layer. Layers are useful. Keep track of them. And then over here, this is your timeline. And let's add another frame. So see, I have this guy in this frame and nothing in this frame. I could draw something else, or I could even copy and paste this guy into the next frame. So it's exactly the same. So let's turn on our onion skinning. So see over here how this cursor, which is where we are in the timeline, all of a sudden grew 2 more heads. This is our onion skinning. So it will show the frame I'm currently on, but also a little transparent previous and next frame. If I wanted to show more frames, I could take one of these extra heads and drag it out here. So right now you didn't see anything change because I haven't changed this frame at all. If I wanted to, I don't know, make it flip, now it looks like that. And see, it has the transparent previous frame. So if I wanted to see what that looks like in a preview, it's flipping really fast. So that's how you make a basic animation. Excuse me. And so let's make something a little cooler than just a line flipping back and forth. So we can delete that and delete that. I want to make an alien. Aliens are cool. So let's draw our alien quickly. Let's see, he's gonna be a little furry guy. He's got a little fur up there. He's got 3 eyes. And he's happy. He's got feet, kind of like Kirby. Yeah, there's our alien. And so, see, since I have onion skinning on, in the next frame, you see him kind of transparent. But now I'm going to make his hair curl a little bit. And I'm going to make his mouth open. So now, if we were previewing that, he's talking really fast. And so what I just did there, where I drew a frame and then I completely drew the next frame, that's frame by frame animation. It's how old-fashioned animation was made, but on paper, not on the computer. But if I wanted to make the outside of the alien be consistent and just have the mouth change, because see how everything about him is changing, what I could do is I could get rid of everything except the mouth and just copy this guy over, and then, well, let's get rid of this overlapped mouth. And now, see, just his mouth is moving. So it's up to you if you want to make it look more sketchy like the first time, or if you want to make it look more consistent. Really depends on what you're going for. So now, finally, I'm going to show the asset library and adding a sound. So let's add another layer for our sound. Now I'm going to add a built-in asset. So here you have clips and sounds. So what's something an alien could say? Well, I think an alien could say flip. Just that. So then you click add as asset, imports it, and then you click it and drag it to a frame. There is a little bit of lag, I am sorry. There we go. And see, I can make the frame longer by just dragging it out. So you can see the sound waves. That shows where the sound is. And so to make this flip happen when he opens his mouth, I would make him do that. And then, why don't we preview it? There you go. Now he's saying flip over and over again. Probably means something cool in Alien. I don't know. But yeah, that is the basics of the Wick editor. Hopefully you learned something. And now I'm going to answer some questions that I've gotten. So, the first question is, what is my favorite thing I've animated in the Wick editor? Well, I only just started using the Wick editor this fall with Come On Out. So aside from just playing around like I just did with this alien and learning how to use it, I've only really made one project. It's the Come On Out intro video. So it's my favorite by default, but I'm pretty proud of it. So yeah, that one would be my favorite. Do I use editors other than Wick? I do. Like I mentioned before, I kind of grew up using Flash because it was in the computer labs at my middle school, high school, even in college. And so that one would have to be my favorite, but as I'm sure you've heard, Flash is dying. I'm very sad. So I have to use other ones. Also, you know, since graduating, I don't really have access to it anymore, and it's kind of expensive. So I don't use it anymore, even though it used to be my favorite. Other ones I do use, I like Krita. That one is also free. I think there's a bit more of a learning curve to it, though, than this Wick editor. Also, if you're interested in pixel art and animation, there's Sprite, which you can get on Steam. Similarly to games, you can get this animation editor on Steam, but it does only do pixel art, so keep that in mind if you're looking for something a little more stylistically versatile. Maybe don't use that one, but if you want to do pixel animation and sprite animation, I highly recommend it. I think Wick might be a new favorite of mine just because it's so similar to editors that I grew up with, and it feels, you know, it feels like seeing an old friend. Can you change the fonts in Wick if you do text? Yes, you can. Wick does, though, have a preloaded library of fonts, and in the current iteration, I don't think you can import your own, or at least last time I tried, you couldn't. So maybe by the time you're watching this video, they will have patched in a new version where you can import your fonts. But as of right now, you only get the fonts that are available in the inspector. So you can get a font family, a style, weight, normal stuff. But yes, to answer the question, you can change the fonts. Another question I got was, do you have to draw everything directly in the editor, or can you import images? You don't have to. I'm more comfortable doing that just because I think it's a lot easier to go in and animate stuff. Like, you know, you saw what I did earlier where I drew everything, but then I went back and copied the body and only had to redraw the mouth. If I were to import an image and try to animate that, I couldn't do it the same way. I would have to do something like select different parts of the image and make them their own separate objects, and I think it would just be a lot more work. But you could do it. Or, you know, if you were trying to have background objects or something static, by all means, import, because then you can use stuff that you already have. But personally, I do like drawing everything in the editor. And then, oh, the final question that I got, I can just show it to you instead of just telling you about it. The final question was, again, about the onion skinning. So if we were to, say, add a couple more frames, the final question was just a little bit more about how onion skinning works. So let's add a couple more frames. Let's do some more drawing just to fill the frames. Oh, see there, I accidentally zoomed out. So let's reset her. Now he's blinking. Now he's winking. And now his eyes are open again. So it was about how many frames can you see in the onion skinning. And so, like I said, if I were to drag this guy all the way out here, now you can see all of these frames overlapping instead of just the one previous and the one after. So this is how you change that. And then the other settings that I was going to show. So right now I have standard, that's where you see them slightly transparent. You could also do outlines and make them different colors. So if I wanted the previous ones to be red and the ones after to be blue, this is what that looks like. I think it's a little hard to see, but to each their own. And then the other one is tint. So instead of the outlines, it's similar to the one where it's slightly transparent, red and blue. I think depending on what you're animating, so see how I just have the black outline as my character, I think the red and blue work really well, but if I were animating something full color, the red and blue might get a little lost in that. So that's why I usually prefer to have the default standard. So yeah, those were all of the questions that I got the previous time I gave this tutorial. But if you have any more questions, there's a wonderful forum actually. If you went to community, you can visit the forum. And chances are someone probably has the same question you did, or you could ask a question. And I've noticed that people around the Wick communities are very helpful. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you learned something, and I hope that you'll have fun animating something in the future. Bye.